lead into our pension reform proposal.
And
Did you
print
wanna
money
talk a little
and
bit in
inflate.
detail about what our proposal is?
Like the voice.
Well, our proposal is, well, the main thing in the proposal, and I think, well, the 10th thing I had was that most actuaries would love to be independent. I mean, but it's not, that's not the case.
I want to hear about the proposals, I don't want to hear about the actuaries anymore.
Right.
They sound just as boring as they are.
Well, not really, I mean, you've never gone to the
Tell me about the
meeting.
proposal.
Who's sexier than John? Are you kidding?
Basically, it's to stop digging. Right now, people are accruing benefits as we speak. And these are massive benefits that really haven't been affected. The people at the top who are still working, who aren't new employees, aging population, a guy who's 50, going to retire in 3 years, making $120,000, he's accruing like $60,000 a year. My proposal is, or our proposal is, stop the accruals, freeze them now. We've got this huge hole, and the hole, I estimate closer to 108, well, 70 billion is there, liabilities, using fair assumptions down the line, what this actually would cost overall, probably 200 billion. So that is massive.
Big gap.
Yeah, and these things are going, they're going at 9, 10 billion. There's a huge population that's retiring and going to retire within the next 5 years. You could project this. 5 years from now, they'll be paying 15, 20 billion a year.
Why don't you just give them all 401ks?
That's what they did in the private sector. Yeah, and a lot of people, there were a lot of things they did in the private sector. They moved people to what are called cash balance plans from regular defined benefit because they noticed their population was getting older and they just wanted to screw the older people. And the government stepped in there and all that, but they won't buy. It's very difficult now to give them 401ks because they've seen what it's done in the private sector. Average 401k account when a guy retires is like $60,000. I mean,
Save more.
yeah, live your. But the thing, there's so many holes in 401ks. It's comical. In that a lot of people use that as a piggy bank. You take your loan, you take your hardship distribution, and you wind up with nothing. There are just too many holes. Defined benefit, not only do you have no control over it, but you know what you're going to get. It's a perfect vehicle if you can afford it. That's why public employees want to keep it. And they've seen what all these their private sector brethren retiring with hardly anything or not being able to retire. You look at your 401k with $60,000 in it, I mean, where are you going to go? Or, you know, Thailand? I mean, where are you going to live on that kind of money? And that's one amount, and that's taxable to you after you go too. It's not like a raw 401k. So the thing is, and yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for the presentation. And I think the only way, and nobody has tried this, nobody actually has tried this, and all I want is an honest discussion on it. Freeze the accruals, freeze the defined benefit plan, primarily because you're valuing it badly. You don't know what you're giving away. You've got these actuaries who are bought and paid for, who are telling the public that this is what it costs, it's affordable, and nobody realizes what the real numbers are. You put private sector numbers onto public sector liabilities, value them, and they would be stunning. And they are stunning.
What does that mean, freeze the accruals? What does that mean?
Well,
What you have,
yeah, that's a good question. And that is something I've explained actually hundreds of times in the practice. Another thing to understand is all defined benefit plans all across the country, roughly 30% of them are frozen. And what happens is, when you're in the defined benefit plan, they promise you 60% of your, whatever, 60% of your benefit for life when you retire. You're getting $100,000 a year, you'll get $60,000 a year. But you work day one, well, you're not going to get all the $60,000. You work a day, leave, well, you're not getting $60,000. You know, let's say you have a 30-year period to get that. Okay, after year one, you get 1/30 of that, so you get $2,000. If you were to leave after the first year, 30 years from now, you get $2,000 a year for the rest of your life. You work the second year, you get $4,000. You work, you know, there's salary difference, there are a lot of factors involved. But you have to put in the full 30 years to get the full 60,000. If you put in 15 years, you only get half of it. So what I recommend is, if someone got 15 years, okay, that's it. You only get the half of it. You get 30,000 when you hit retirement. For the rest of this period, we're going to try to figure out a way that is transparent to pay you.
Okay, so the first person who's hired, the day after all accruals
Right.
are frozen, their benefit is zero.
They have nothing. They have no promise to pay them a monthly benefit. What they'll get is dollars, real dollars, something typically based on salary. We're not gonna make you this promise that we're gonna pay you $1,000 a month for the rest of your life 30 years from now. We're gonna give you this amount of money and go ahead, do it, put it wherever you want.
Didn't mention that I'm friends with several actuaries, and one thing they said is that you're not allowed to badmouth each other if you're a private actuary, like if you're not working for public. And if you get someone's valuation and like they used really bad assumptions and you're trying, you can't, they said you're really not supposed to badmouth them and say, they did a really crummy job, and you know, you just kind of have to try to smooth it over to work out their,
Well, they know, I mean, the public plan actuaries are fully aware that they're whores for no, I mean, it's just stating the obvious. And I didn't know that bad-mouthing rule at all. I mean, actually, I can go into a fairly boring story about a 401k safe harbor match, so ADP test that was screwed up. And, you know, it's not, I wouldn't go public with it, but you'd go to the client and you tell them, you know, what are you doing with this? And basically, that's what I'm trying to do.